The night their parents died, the rain would not stop. 17-year-old Aisha stood in the hospital hallway, her hands trembling, her world collapsing in silence. Just a few hours ago, she had been a daughter. Now, she was something else. An orphaned. Behind her, on a cold metal bench, her 10-year-old brother Ali held tightly to her 7-year-old sister Mahak. They didn't fully understand what had happened. They only knew that their parents were not coming back. When the doctor said, "We're sorry, we couldn't save them," Aisha didn't cry. She couldn't, because at that moment, she realized something terrifying. There was no one left but her. Childhood ended that night. The next morning, neighbors filled the small house with whispers, and pitchy relatives came, offered condolences, and slowly disappeared. Everyone had their own lives, their own problems. No one offered to take the children. After the funeral, when the house became silent, Ali asked softly, "Apia, when will Mama come home?" Aisha's heart shattered into pieces. "She's watching us from the sky now," she whispered, forcing a smile. That night, when her siblings finally fell asleep, Aisha went into her parents' room, held her mother's scarf, and cried for hours. But by morning, her tears were gone. Responsibility had replaced them. The decision a week later, Aisha made the hardest decision of her life. She left school. Her teachers tried to stop her. "You're the brightest student in class," one of them said. "You have a scholarship waiting." But scholarships don't feed children. Dreams don't pay electricity bills. So she found a job actually. 3 jobs. In the morning she worked at a bakery. In the afternoon, she cleaned offices. At night, she stitched clothes at home. Her hands, once soft and youthful, became rough and tired. But every evening, she came home with a smile. "Look what I brought," she would say, hiding her exhaustion. Ali never knew she skipped lunch so he could have milk. Mahak never knew the new shoes she wore were bought with Aisha's unpaid overtime. The proposal she refused when Aisha turned 22, she was beautiful, not just in face but in strength. One evening, an aunt came with a marriage proposal. "The boy is good. He has a stable job. You deserve happiness," the aunt insisted. For a moment, Aisha allowed herself to imagine it. A wedding dress, a home of her own, a life that wasn't built on sacrifice. But then she looked at Ollie and Mahak doing homework at the dining table. If Schlef, who would guide them, who would protect them? That night, she gently refused. "I can't leave my children," she said. Schlef, the aunt, laughed. "They're your siblings." Aisha smiled softly. "They're my responsibility." When Ollie overheard that she refused marriage because of them, he felt something heavy in his chest, something that would stay with him for years. Silent struggles there. Were days when money wasn't enough, days when the electricity was cut off, days when Aisha pretended she wasn't hungry. One winter night, Ollie woke up and saw her stitching clothes under a dim candlelight because they couldn't afford power. Her fingers were bleeding. "API, please sleep," he whispered. He smiled. "Doctors and engineers don't grow from sleeping, Ali." That sentence burned into his heart from that day. Ali studied harder than ever. Not for himself, for her. The breaking point when Mahak turned 16. She fell seriously ill. The hospital bills were high. Too high. Aisha sold the last gold bracelet their mother had given her. It was the only thing she had kept for herself. While signing the hospital payment form, her hands shook, not because of the money, but because she had nothing left of her mother. Now that night in the hospital corridor, just like years ago, Aisha sat alone. This time she did cry, not because she was weak, but because she was tired, so very tired. The turning point. Years passed. Ollie got into medical college the day the acceptance letter arrived. He ran home shouting, "API, I did it." Aisha held the letter like it was a miracle. She didn't realize she was crying until Ali wiped her tears. "This is your achievement," he said. "You are the reason." But medical school was expensive, so Aisha worked even harder. Her health started failing. She often felt dizzy. She ignored it. There was no time to be sick. Mahak's wedding. When Mahak graduated and received a good job offer, Aisha felt something she hadn't felt in years. Relief. Soon after, a respectful family came with a marriage proposal for Mahak. This time Aisha said yes. She planned the wedding with love, carefully saving every rupee. On the wedding day, Mahak hugged her tightly. "You're not just my sister," she cried. "You're my mother." For the first time in years, Aisha allowed herself to feel proud. The day everything changed. One evening, Ali, now a doctor, came home early. He found Aisha unconscious on the kitchen floor. Years of stress, sleepless nights, and overwork had finally taken their toll at the hospital. The same hospital where their parents had died. Ollie stood outside the ICU. Now he was the doctor, but inside, he was still a little brother. "Please save her," he whispered to his colleagues. After hours that felt like eternity, the doctor came out. "She's stable, but she needs rest. Long-term care. She has ignored her health for too long." Ollie broke down. All those years, she had been strong for them. Now it was his turn. The promise fulfilled when Aisha woke up. She saw Ali sitting beside her. "You should be at work," she said weakly. "I am at work," he smiled. "My most important patient." Tears rolled down her cheeks for the first time. She didn't feel alone in responsibility. Ali bought a new house. Not big, not fancy, but warm. He placed the house papers in her hands. "This is yours," he said. "You gave us a home, let me return it." Aisha shook her head. "I don't need anything." Ali replied softly. "You gave up your forever for us. Let us give you peace." Asterisk the ending she never expected. Years later, Aisha sat in the garden of her new home, watching Ali's children play around her. They called her Nano. To them, she wasn't the woman who sacrificed everything. She was warmth, she was safety, she was love. One evening, Ali sat beside her. "API," he said gently, "do you ever regret not getting married?" Aisha looked at the sunset golden and peaceful. "No," she whispered, "because I didn't lose a life. I built two." Ali held her hand, and for the first time since that rainy night years ago, Aisha felt something she had forgotten existed. Not responsibility, not sacrifice, but peace. Aisha had always been the pillar, the wall that never cracked, the voice that never trembled, the hands that never stopped working. But strength has a limit, and no one noticed when hers began to fade. The silent illness after leaving the hospital. Aisha promised Ali she would rest, but resting felt strange. For 20 years, her life had only one meaning: responsibility. Now, sitting quietly in a peaceful house felt unfamiliar, almost empty. Ali insisted on regular checkups. That's when they discovered the truth. Years of stress had damaged her heart. "It's not sudden," the doctor explained softly. "It's long-term exhaustion, emotional and physical." Ali felt guilt crash over him while he was building his career. She was breaking her body. That night, Ali sat alone in his office and cried, not as a doctor, as a little brother who realized too late how much she had hidden: the loneliness. No one. Somhawk visited often with her husband and little daughter. The house was filled with laughter again, but sometimes, late at night, Aisha would sit by the window. She wasn't sad, she was just empty. Her whole youth had been spent surviving. She never experienced the college life, friendship trips, falling in love, a wedding of her own. She had watched others live, or she sacrificed. One evening, Mahak noticed her staring at an old wedding dress in a shop window. "API?" she asked gently. Aisha smiled. "It's beautiful." That was all she said. But Mehek understood what she didn't say. Asterisk a secret plan. Ali and Mehek talked privately. "She gave us everything," Mehak said. "We gave her comfort, but did we give her life?" So they made a plan. They decided to reopen something Aisha had buried years ago: her dream, the hidden talent before their parents died. Aisha wanted to become a teacher. She loved books. She loved explaining things. She once said, "Education changes destiny." Ali remembered that. So one morning he handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it." Inside was an appointment letter. A nearby school needed a part-time literature teacher. Ali had spoken to the principal. He told them her story. They agreed to give her a chance. Aisha's hand shook. "I'm too old to start now," she whispered. Ali knelt beside her. "You were never too old to sacrifice. You're not too old to dream." For the first time in years, hope returned to her eyes. The first day, on her first day at school, Aisha wore a simple light blue dress. She was nervous, but when she stood in front of the classroom and saw young faces waiting to learn, something awakened inside her. "This," she thought, "is who I was meant to be." She didn't just teach lessons, she taught strength. She taught kindness. She taught resilience. Students loved her. Some even said she teaches from the heart, because she did. The unexpected visitor. One afternoon, a man came to school to enroll his niece. He paused when he saw Aisha. It was Omar, the same man whose proposal she had refused years ago. Time had changed them both. After class, he approached her respectfully. "You look happy," he said. Aisha smiled softly. "I am learning how to be." Omar never married. He had heard about her sacrifices through relatives. "I always respected your decision," he said. "You chose responsibility. Not everyone can." There was no dramatic romance. No movie-style confession. Just two mature souls who understood pain. They began talking occasionally, slowly, carefully. The realization: one evening, Ali noticed something different. Aisha was laughing, not the polite smile she used for years. A real laugh. He felt tears in his eyes. This was the sister he had never seen because life had stolen her youth. Mihawk hugged Ali and whispered, "She's finally living the hard truth, but life isn't a fairy tale." During a routine checkup, doctors found that Aisha's heart condition was more serious than expected. She might need surgery in the future. When Ali heard this, fear gripped him. He couldn't lose her. Not after everything. But Aisha reacted differently. She was calm. "If my time is limited," she said gently, "I don't want more sacrifice. I want moments." That sentence changed everything. Choosing herself for the first time in her life, Aisha chose herself. She accepted Omar's companionship, not out of loneliness, but out of understanding. They didn't rush into marriage. They simply spent time together. Walks in the park, tea conversations, shared books. She learned what it felt like to be cared for, not depended on but cared for. The emotional confession one night. Tally sat beside her in the garden. API, he said, voice trembling. I'm sorry for what? She asked. For not realizing sooner. For letting you carry everything alone. Aisha held his face gently. You were children. I never carried you alone. He shook his head. You carried the world. She smiled peacefully, and now the world carries me. The final scene of part 2, months later, at a small family gathering. Ollie stood up with tears in his eyes. I want to say something. He looked at his sister. She is not just my sister. She is my mother, my father, my teacher, my hero. Everyone clapped. But Aisha was crying silently, not from sadness, from fulfillment for the first time. Her sacrifice felt seen, and sometimes that is enough to heal a lifetime of pain. The winter air felt heavier than usual. Aisha had been smiling more these days, teaching, reading, spending quiet evenings in the garden, talking softly with Omar, watching Ali's children play. For the first time in her life, she was not surviving, she was living. And maybe that is why fate decided to test her again. The collapse had happened on an ordinary afternoon. Aisha was in her classroom, explaining a poem about hope. Sometimes, he told her students gently, the darkest nights create the brightest stars. Mid-sentence, her voice weakened. The chalk slipped from her hand. Her vision blurred, and before anyone could understand what was happening, she collapsed. The hospital once again, the same hospital corridors, the same smell, the same fear. Ollie ran, faster than he ever had in his life. But this time, he wasn't just a doctor. He was a terrified brother. Doctors surrounded her. Machines beeped loudly. Nurses rushed out after what felt like hours. A senior cardiologist came out. Her heart is failing. She needs surgery immediately. Ali's hands trembled. He had saved hundreds of patients, but he couldn't imagine losing the one person who gave him life twice. The waiting Mihai arrived, crying. Omar stood silently in a corner, praying. For the first time, the family that Aisha built stood united. Helpless. Ali signed the surgeon's papers. His signature felt heavier than any decision he had ever made. As they took Aisha into the operation theater, she briefly opened her eyes. She saw Ali, and she smiled. That same brave smile she had worn her whole life. Don't cry, she whispered weakly. I'm proud of you. Then the doors closed. The longest night surgery lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of memories flooding through Ali's mind. Aisha feeding him when there wasn't enough food. Aisha walking in the rain to save bus fare. Aisha refusing marriage for them. Aisha stitching clothes until her fingers bled. He realized something painful. She never asked for anything in return, not even gratitude, just their success. The turning point finally. The surgeon came out. It was critical, he said, but the surgery was successful. Mayhawk collapsed in relief. Ali covered his face and cried openly. Omar whispered, thank you, to the sky. But recovery would not be easy. The weakness she never showed. When Aisha woke up in ICU, she looked fragile. For the first time in her life, she looked small. Ollie held her hand gently. You scared us? He tried to joke. She smiled faintly. I guess even strong walls need repair. Tears rolled down his face. You don't have to be strong anymore. She looked at him lovingly. Was never strong alone. I was strong because of you. The truth she revealed during recovery, one evening when everyone else had left. Aisha called Ollie closer. There's something you don't know, she said softly. The night our parents died, I was scared too. Ollie looked confused. He never showed it. I wanted to run away, she whispered. I wanted someone else to take responsibility. I was just 17. Ollie's heart broke hearing that. But when I saw you holding Mayhawk, I knew I couldn't break. For years, he thought she was fearless. Now he understood she was just human. She chose courage. Every single day. A new beginning. Months later, Aisha slowly recovered. Her steps were slower. Her body weaker, but her spirit stronger than ever. One evening, Omar came with his family, not with pressure, not with expectations, just sincerity. I don't want to take you away from them, he said gently. I want to stand beside you. Ali looked at his sister. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of losing her, because she had already given him everything. Now it was her turn. Aisha nodded softly, not because she needed someone, but because she deserved someone. The simple wedding. There was no grand hall, no loud music. Just close family. Tears. Smiles. Gratitude. As Ollie placed her hand into Omar, as he whispered, you raised me like a son. Today, let me give you away like a father. Everyone cried, even Aisha. Not from sadness, but from completion. The final scene. Years later, Aisha sat in a quiet home, sunlight falling across her face. Ali was now a respected doctor. Mayhawk had a loving family. Children ran around calling her Daddy Aisha. Omar brought her tea every evening. One day, Ali asked gently, if you could go back, would you change anything? Aisha looked at her siblings laughing together. She shook her head. No. Why? Because sacrifice is painful, but regret is worse. She closed her eyes peacefully, not because her story ended, but because her heart was finally light. Asterisk, some sisters are born, some sisters become mothers, and some give up their entire youth so their siblings can have a future. She was not weak. She was not unlucky. She was extraordinary. Big sister, bigger sacrifice.